Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Wednesday, man. A lot to talk about today, and we got some great ones. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, is batting the leadoff position. Speaking of baseball, LSU and Arkansas. Holy cow, they're good. We'll talk about that series. That was last weekend down in Baton Rouge, but it's kind of crazy. Look at the SEC West. Auburn's 2-4. A&M I think's 2-4. The previous two national champions in 21 and 22, Mississippi State and Ole Miss, at this point are a combined 0-12 in SEC baseball. I know there's a long season to go, and you can make the College World Series being below 500 in the SEC regular season, which is 30 games, and that's a respect and a nod to the strength of this wonderful league. But they're good teams all over the country. Billy Roberts will join us here about a quarter after the hour from Atlanta to chime in with Dudley and me. And then we will go hour number 2. Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal over in Savannah, and Coach John Brady in the fourth segment will weigh in. I'm wondering, Dudley, if Coach Brady, all four of the Final Four teams were in Coach Brady's bracket. You know, someone brought it up. Matt Dean brought it up on the show Monday, and we talked about it yesterday. Dean Smith, I can't remember this really, but years ago, Dean Smith, legendary coach and chain smoker at North Carolina, advocated maybe we should reseed the NCAA brackets after the first weekend. Well, then are you going to let us redo our brackets after the first weekend? Hogville.net's Dudley Dawson, you're on the clock. What do you think about that? That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. Now, I would say that UConn was maybe one team out of the four that people might have had there. You know, but it's been fun. I mean, I've loved watching these teams, and you got to fall in love with a couple of them who have just kept playing during the season. You know, after being told they weren't good enough. And, you know, I saw a poll the other day, are you going to watch the Final Four more because of the new teams or not? And I'm telling you that I would have watched it anyway, but I'm more interested in these teams than I am, you know, the normal blue buds, I would say.
Yeah. You know, a Final Four like this is, you know, you're used to going out to dinner, you know, get a steak or you get fish or you get chicken. This Final Four, you're getting a big old tomahawk filet at the steakhouse, but you're getting some alligator, you're getting some wild hog boudin, and you're getting some kangaroo, which is delicious, by the way, with a pastelaya. I recommend it highly. But that's what this one is, and that gets me excited. And I love what Jim Nantz said Saturday or Sunday when they were winding down the last few seconds to Miami beating Texas. And I know you were crushed to see the Longhorns go down as an Arkansas man, but I like what Jim Nantz said. He goes, hey, man, where are the heavyweights? Everybody's asking. He goes, we got UConn, but embrace the moment. And this is the first time since you and I were in like first grade, Dudley, that you've got 3 of the 4 Final Four first time ever. I love the story. As a writer, you've got to love it.
Yeah, a couple things. Number one, I'm not that upset that Texas lost, but I do give a lot of credit to Rodney Terry. I'm glad they went ahead and gave him the full-time job. I mean, what did he have to do? Win it all before they were going to say it. He's been a valued assistant there, and he did a great job taking over in a less than ideal situation for the Longhorns this year. So congratulations to him. But yeah, I mean, it's just there's so many storylines and so many different dynamics coming to this situation than there is normal. You've got some great young coaches and one great older coach in Jim Larrañaga, who's having a great run with Miami. I get a kick out of how No More Archard was in Jonesboro last year, and now he's in the Final Four. You know, the Arkansas State player played for Miami. That you got to give him a lot of credit. And there's the advantage of the portal there are some disadvantages of the portal, but there's the advantage for the portal for that young man being able to go to a team and it really helping get them over the top.
Well, again, the portal, it's Charles Barkley's comments were on point, especially about NIL. The portal is here right now, and unless they change the rule, what are you seeing happening with Arkansas? They had 6 freshmen on that roster, and you've talked about you don't think Eric Musselman is likely to do that anytime soon. Some of those guys are going to declare for the NBA draft, but how many of those 6 freshmen do you think will be back versus hitting the portal?
Well, I think Anthony Black and Nick Smith Jr. will both go to the NBA. I suspect that Jordan Walsh might be back, but we'll see, how that plays itself out. And then you have Darian Ford, Joseph Pinion, and Barry Dunning. And really, at this point, I don't have a good handle on whether they and their families think they need to explore more opportunities because they didn't play much this year, or whether they see that with these guys going out that maybe they'll get some time. So that really hadn't been talked about yet enough. I do know that they've contacted, it seems like 50 or so portal guys. So some of them are going to come in here. They've got Bayfall and Layden Blocker, who are the 2 5-star kids that they signed during the high school signing period that are coming in. And then he'll do what he's normally done. He'll try to find the right thing. Last year, this coming into this year, he tried to get hyped. I think he's definitely going to try to get shooting in the portal transfers this year.
Yeah, and you look at now Texas not yet coming into the league. Rodney Terry was an assistant of Chris Beard's. Okay, how long had he been with Chris Beard?
Well, he had been at Texas
for a long time.
Part. Yeah, with Rick Barnes and some others, he had been there 10 years as an assistant in 2 different stints. So that's the service that I'm talking about there. That he had been a good soldier for them, and again, with the fact that he had success this year, and the recruits and the current players were saying we want him. I'm glad that they went ahead and did that instead of bringing somebody in. And I think people probably around here are pretty glad they didn't come snooping after Coach Musselman, or at least didn't get Coach Musselman. I wouldn't be surprised at all if some of the top colleges were top college coaches were talked to via their agents and friends and all that. So
yeah, that explains why Dave Cody, my friend who was the sports anchor at Channel 7 in Austin for 36 years and retired last year, kept saying, why don't they just give the job to Rodney Terry? He knew him, and I didn't realize he'd been there for 10 years. I mean, that's a smart move. And Texas looked like they were in complete control, Dudley, but Miami is relentless. They were in the Elite Eight last year with a 4-guard lineup. Jim Larinaga, on the exact same date 17 years ago, got George Mason to the Final Four. He's only 73 years old. I hope he coaches a long time. I love his demeanor, his intensity, and he's got a roster full of guys that love each other, and that goes a long way versus guys that are looking at their own stat sheets.
Hey, and how about those dance moves after the games?
I love it. I mean, the shuffle. It's you people when they get so excited that they get overwhelmed. And what I've noticed a lot too, when Tracy Wolfson's trying to talk to one or two, a coach or a player, the teammates are mobbing each other. That's what we love about the NCAA tournament. And again, this is kind of like going to a wild game dinner. You got emu, ostrich, kangaroo, crocodile is delicious as well. No passenger pigeons. They've been gone since 1914, but no ivory-billed woodpeckers, although that's the biggest fraud I've ever seen. There are no ivory-billed woodpeckers. If that's you and I are both 7 feet tall and we're declaring for the NBA right after the show. Come on. But Dudley, you're very smart. You've coached basketball. You were on the staff with Eddie Sutton, Nolan Richardson, 2 intense guys. Ask you this. I believe they would. Do you think they would just crush it and dominate in today's world?
Yeah, I think so because they adapted to different teams, different situations as their careers went along. Obviously, Coach Richardson's style of defense, would probably have a few more fouls called these days. But I think that they both would adapt as they did in their coaching careers and be successful. It's still about putting the ball in the basket and keeping the other team from putting the ball in the basket. No matter how you get there, be a man-to-man zone, motion offense, traditional offense, however you get there, coaches that are great coaches are going to figure that out. And it's more, to me, at times, an emotional and mental attachment to your players than it is, or it is equally with the physical status of your basketball team.
Well, I think people always love to ask that question. That's why I asked you. You coached on their staffs. If you look at the coaches from 50 years ago, and people say, well, would they work today? Yeah, they all, because they adapt. If there's something coaches all love, they love winning, and they'll adapt. But I don't think they'd be soft on these players. I don't think they would at all. I think they'd be as tough as ever. Here's an interesting, here's an interesting comment here made by a listener. This is an interesting one. In Richardson, Texas, Eric Musselman and Bruce Pearl, very similar. How do they both fill out each of their teams? Because they go for these high-profile recruits every year, but they're able to mold them as well as any coaches. That's interesting. I mean, the portal, recruiting, what else can you do?
Yeah, again, I think that's the biggest thing. You try to go out and where you were lacking, even though they went to the Elite Eight the 2 previous years, you go out to where you were lacking and try to fit those spots. They'll do that again this year. One of the big key for Arkansas is whether Trayvon Brazile, who was injured in December, comes back. I suspect he's going to, because he's told us that his rehab will extend into August. And, I don't think that the NBA guys are probably willing to take that chance for him to get fully healthy. They want to see him during summer league and all that. So I think he's a big key. If you have him and what he adds in the portal and some of those other, veteran guys coming back, Devo and those type guys, then you're going to be right where you were last year and this year. I mean, we talked about joy, the absolute joy, shirt taking off, emotional situation that they had after beating Kansas. That's what March Madness is all about. And really, those 3 years they've had wins like that in the NCAA tournament, and I suspect they'll be back doing it again. Although I do suspect in December somebody will be saying, well, he just can't reach this team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at a team, you lose a game December 10th, don't get too upset about it because you're still 3 months away from your conference tournament, and they pay the coaches to develop the players. The ones that can't develop them don't last very long at all. And one thing, the takeaway from this Final Four too, another stat, no McDonald's All-Americans. There are 23 of them played on TV last night on ESPN, but none of them on any of the Final Four teams. Yeah,
and the emphasis on the word team should be there. I mean, San Diego State had a chance to see them in the Maui Invitational, against Arkansas. Obviously, Arkansas beat them. And I've watched these other teams throughout the years just because I watch so much sports in general, and they have been successful. Their records are, the records that you would expect for people to be either in the Final Four or pushing on the Final Four. It's a lot of these teams have older guys. There's still something to be said for older, experienced guys playing, developing on your roster as they go along. That's why I hope some of these younger kids that are on Arkansas's team now in Pinion and Ford will stick around and continue to develop and get their chance here. I mean, we know that Joseph Pinion can shoot the ball, and that's one of the things you're looking for. So I would. We think that they'd want him back, and hopefully he'll want to come back.
Yeah. In state this year, Arkansas, I would figure, would get anybody that they want. is the top 5, top 10 as deep as it typically is?
I don't think so. I mean, it is in sophomore and freshman classes, but I think not so much in the next two classes. But he's always been able to. Leighton Blocker, I mentioned he ended up his career at Sunrise Christian in Wichita, Kansas, but he's from Little Rock Christian. Yeah. So he would have been the top player in the state this year. Rashard Marshall is a big center that for a minute had decommitted down at Ole Miss during their situation, but I understand he's back committed and with Chris Beard going there. So those were really the few of the top guys. But yeah, I think that you'll cherry pick when you've got them here. When you've got guys in your state, you go after them, and they do that, and they have been very successful here lately. But these next two classes aren't loaded with guys that I expect up here.
Yeah, when you look at these guys that come in, you saw Johan Traore, no surprise to me, enter the transfer portal. He'll play somewhere for 3 months, and then he'll go somewhere else, I'm sure. I mean, he played 4 years of basketball. He was a 5-star. That's a case of projecting what he could be in the future. You don't want to have a roster full of those kind of guys. And we're about to go to a break. We're going to come back. We're going to get into some baseball and spring practice. But hell, Dudley, I think that Eric Musselman and that Arkansas program, he's just going to have to get used to a lot of criticism, just like us, because he brings in a lot of new players every year. But same thing with Kentucky. Was it Xavier Wheeler, Xavier, whatever, transferring? Hey, look, man, you knew damn well what you were getting into when you signed with Kentucky, okay? Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants with this world's smallest violin has this to say to you. Man up, son. Good luck. Life's going to kick your ass every day until you get tough. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Billy Roberts checking in with us from over in Atlanta, Brookhaven, right next to Atlanta, and Buckhead, and Dudley, Dawson, Hogville.net. And guys, I'm serious about that before the break. It reminds me of the Gulf War, August of 1990, when all these reservists and people that have been in ROTC were being called up to go to the Persian Gulf in the early deployment. And CNN was interviewing one of these young men, and he said, well, I just joined for the college money. I never thought I'd have to fight. I'm like, are you that stupid? I mean, you go to Kentucky and you're whining about the criticism that you get, but you didn't complain about all the benefits you got. NIL deals, worship sycophants out there, worshiping everything that you do. But, things aren't going your way. You're going to hit the portal. I mean, Billy, Dudley, all three of us all the same age. How many times early in your career did you go, what am I doing here? But when you talk to your mom and your dad and you listen to yourself, you talk to yourself, you said, I can't quit. People will be calling me a quitter the rest of my life. You gotta just tie another knot in the rope and hang on. And I think Charles Barkley was right, but I also think we brought it up yesterday. I'm gonna throw this one to you, Billy, and then I want you to come on top of that answer after that, Dudley. But they're not going to be 25 or 30 teams in basketball, and the rest of them are just going to fall by the wayside. there's too many basketball players, and all the studs aren't going to go to the same team, Billy. It's not like, say, the Yankees could do 25 years ago, is it?
No, I mean, people want playing time, and they're going to go where they get a chance to play. And Charles Barkley's made that point many times. That's what it comes down to. It's like, if you're going to go somewhere, if you want to play at a big time program, maybe you have to wait in line a little bit, if that matters to you, to be part of a championship team and maybe win something significant. But if you're just seeking playing time, there's a lot of places that can offer that.
Yeah. Dudley, you talked about San Diego State. I haven't looked at their roster, but I bet they've got some veteran players that have been together for a long time. It shows.
And I was checking my bingo card. I did not have sycophants as a word that would be used on this morning's program, but congratulations to you. Give yourself 50 points. But yeah, there are situations, and we've known them over the years before this transfer portal became a thing, where it was better for the player to move on.
Yeah.
The coach thought it was better, or the player thought it was better. And there are legitimate situations, but it's gotten to the point where it's just, if I didn't play enough, if I'm a freshman and I didn't play enough, I got to go find someplace else where I can play more. Now, that's one of two things. Or if you do that, you're going to go to probably a less successful situation. Yeah. Yes, you may get playing time, but you may not be in the limelight as you are even as a reserve at your current place. So there's a lot to be said for the transfer portal, but there's also a lot to, as you were pointing out, back in the day, we didn't quit. I mean, I grew up on a farm. We didn't. That wasn't even a word that you could even go cozy up to. I mean, it was you had a job to do. You did the job. If you wanted to complain about it, you did it to yourself, not to your dad.
Yeah. I mean, and that's so true. And like with anything, the first time you quit, it's really hard. The second time you quit something, it's a little easier. The third time, you don't even think about it. Translate that over to the transfer portal, guys. I mean, that's a problem. All right, look, I got two of the smartest baseball minds you'll find anywhere on this one. In the left corner, out of Balch, Arkansas, Dudley Dawson. In the right corner, out of LaGrange, Georgia, born in the Rocket City. What? No, the Rocket City's Huntsville. Mission Control, Houston, we have a problem. The famous movie scene that made the short sleeve rayon shirt with a clip-on tie and the birth control glasses, Mission Control out of Houston, Texas. But LaGrange, Georgia, Billy Roberts. Billy's a Bravesologist. Dudley's a Cardinals junkie. Shoney just reminded us from down in Titletown, USA, Valdosta, Thursday's opening day of Major League Baseball.
National holiday.
That's right. Billy is a Bravesologist. You're a Cardinalsologist. Both of y'all have PhDs in this stuff. Billy, let's talk a little baseball here. We'll get to college in a second, but Braves, let's go.
Well, they've had a couple of interesting positional battles that have been speculated, all winter about who's going to take over at shortstop. And they made a surprise, and they named Arcia to be the starting shortstop rather than the two young guys. I think that they just didn't want those guys to, either one of them, Shoemake or Grissom, to have the pressure of being the starting shortstop, replacing a guy that's an all-star that just signed a $170 million contract. You saw the Yankees go the other way. They elevated Volpe to a starting shortstop. He's 19, 20 years old. The media is already licking their chops to either tear him down or just pick him apart. And I think the Braves are smart enough not to throw a young guy in that situation. So they're going to put the veteran Arcia in there for a month or so, see how he does. He hit really well in spring training. He certainly can play the position defensively. He was starting shortstop for the Brewers for a long time before the Braves got him. So the guy can play shortstop. If he can hit enough at the number 9 spot, they'll have a veteran that can play the position defensively, which is what they gave up with Swanson. That guy was amazing defensively. But Swanson was a streaky hitter. I mean, good for him. He put together a career year last year on the verge of signing a free agent contract. That's what you're supposed to do. It doesn't always work like that, but he killed it, and he timed himself perfectly and got a big contract. I think he signed for $50 million more than the Braves were going to offer him.
Yeah.
So, good for him. But the Braves had 3 viable options at shortstop, and they picked the veteran, which is typical of the Braves. A smart move on their part.
And my wife is a Braves fan, so and she turned 60 over the weekend, even though the smoke show still looks like she's 29. As you said, I'm a big Cardinal fan. Our big deal this year is getting a guy from Georgia, and Mr. Jordan Walker, who the 4th best prospect in baseball, according to those who make those decisions. He's going to be the starting left fielder. It looks like for us. He's kind of pushed Dylan Carlson out of the way, and very excited about that. I don't know if St. Louis has enough pitching once they get in the playoffs. I think we'll win the Central as usual, or most times. But I do think that that pitching, that frontline pitching, when you have to go up, say, against the Mets, they've got Verlander and Scherzer. And the Braves, with Fried and Steven Strider and Kyle Wright. Speaking of most of my pitching staff on my fantasy baseball team, I just reeled them off there. I hope everybody gets healthy. But, yeah, I'm excited about baseball season. And as you were mentioning, it's been a fun season so far up here in Arkansas. Who they didn't have a great Saturday, obviously, against LSU, but there's some great teams. Not only that were expected in the SEC, but also there on the eastern side of things that played it out, and Tennessee may not win over there in the East. We'll see.
Well, I mean, both of y'all really understand baseball. I'm serious. As you're like talking to a hedge fund manager. In full disclosure, if you were on CNBC or Fox Business or Stuart Varney, you'd have to say, I own shares of the Braves, I own shares of the Cardinals. But that's why I love talking to y'all. Look at the college game. You play a lot fewer games. You might play close to 60 if you get to the World Series. Already looking at LSU and Arkansas. And then you got Alabama. I'm just looking at the standings. Alabama's 2-4, Auburn's 2-4, A&M 1-5, Ole Miss and Mississippi State 0-6. But LSU and Arkansas are tied up there at 4-2. Last year, you had Auburn, you had Ole Miss, you had Texas A&M and Arkansas. 4 from the West go to the College World Series. And then our good friends to the west on I-40, Dudley, at Oklahoma, and your good friends down in Austin, Texas, who never brag or crow about anything, just everything. But God almighty, where do you hide in this league? I mean, Billy, break it down. We have Butch Thompson is so kind to be on the show with us on Saturday mornings. I mean, look what he's dealing with right now. Gonzalez out for the next 6 weeks trying to heal that shoulder. Can you ever get enough pitchers?
No. I mean, that's the old adage. When you have like the Braves last year and this year, all winter, like we got 6 starting pitchers. We got an embarrassment of riches, and already they're closer for the year. Iglesias is going to start on the IL. Wright is starting the season on the IL, and they're going to promote 2 rookies to the starting 5 in the rotation. Dylan and Schuster haven't done it before. 2 lefties, they look great. But guys that were World Series heroes just 2 years ago, Ian Anderson is back in the minor leagues. He's got to develop a third pitch. So it's strange. I mean, these guys look like they come up and they've got it all figured out. And Anderson was a Vanderbilt guy. So, I mean, he's a smart guy, and he rocked it through the minor leagues and arrived early to the majors. And we thought he was going to be a frontline starter, number 1 or 2 starter. But he last year and now this year, back in the minors trying to figure it out. He needs to develop a slider, some kind of third pitch, because I don't know if he's tipping his fastball, but they're figuring out his fastball, and he's getting rocked.
Well, Dudley, Butch Thompson works with Auburn's team doctor, Dr. James Andrews, and world famous, world renowned orthopedic surgeon. We have him on the show from time to time. Incredible to have him there. I think he said that the elbow, the arm, is designed to go about 90 miles an hour. So when you're pitching at 95, 97, and we have guys throwing 100 now, but that happened back in 97. and when Rice was in the World Series, but they have the guy that threw 102, 103. But if you're a pitcher in today's world, Dudley, who you listening to? The doctor or your agent?
Well, I'd like to say the doctor, but we all know that the agent has moved to the front of the pack. And so that's a situation that you just have to deal with. By the way, Butch Thompson is one of the best coaches that I deal with in any sport in the SEC. We were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I brought up your name, and he simply said one word, or it could be two, I guess, wild man. So you have that reputation, out there. But he's just great to deal with. He gets the media's portion of of baseball and what we do, to try to get it to the fans and help grow the game and those different things. But just I mentioned your name, and it was just wild man.
I tell you what, man, I love him. He's a great philosopher. And when he gets on here, and sadly, when he was on Saturday morning, he made mention of the tornadoes that had come through, late Friday night, because we were in Memphis all day Friday. I was at the bank working, got back over to parking, and we headed over to JB's Steakhouse up on Crowley's Ridge, right at Wynn. I mean, you could barely see. And also Amory, Mississippi, where Coach Thompson grew up, was hit. And his brother was there, but his mother is there with him right now during baseball season. I think she loves baseball and is over there with him. But just and whoever it is, Dave Van Horn, all these coaches, they all know each other. They care about each other. And look, I want to beat you, no doubt about it. But when you talk to these coaches, and Billy, you've been around them, you, Dudley, the respect they have for each other, that's what I love. I mean, by God, no matter how bad you lost or how much you won by, I was raised, you walk through and you shake every hand and you look people in the eye and you yes or no, sir, those coaches on the other team. And these coaches are teaching, to me, the right things. And the fans are packing stadiums. Billy, if Auburn could have what Arkansas has, I would be doing backflips, man. I mean, that they have a program that is so rock solid, and the fans just, oh my God, the support they have. But both of y'all, the future of college baseball, I think, is because it's more of a team sport. Yeah, there's guys transferring, but we don't hear about it as much. Maybe that's the key. Is that your take,
Billy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, with baseball more than any other sport, you got to play with each other and, develop, that connection. Particularly pitchers and catchers for sure have got to develop camaraderie between each other. So it lends itself to, kind of spending a lot of time on the water, as it were, the way fishermen talk, to kind of understand nuances. And there's a lot of communication in baseball. They have to signal each other about, are you going to cover second? Am I going to cover second on the next ball? If it's 2 outs, what do we do? So, these guys need to spend a lot of time together. And that probably lends itself to not transferring at the drop of a hat. But, in all things, people do want playing time. And if they're not getting it, or if the coach that recruited them is leaving, they may feel that they don't have the support of the new coaching staff or whoever is remaining, but for sure, you gotta play together to be a good baseball team.
Yeah, theoretically, Arkansas lost 7 position players, or along with the DH last year, had to go to the portal to bring in some guys to go along with the freshmen that they have. So there's another benefit, when you're a great program, that you need to bring some guys in. And Jared Wegner and those guys have been great for Arkansas this year. The one thing I would say about college baseball, it continues to grow. It gets more TV time. There's a lot of things that, I think are positives. I still would contend that you need to have 4 assistant coaches, and you certainly need to have more than 11.7 scholarships to distribute between 36 guys. Not only would you grow the game, if baseball was a full scholarship sport, not only would the sport continue to grow and be more readily accepted, but you would have more diversity in college baseball, and I think that's one thing that's needed. Now I know there are some programs in the SEC who don't necessarily have to stick to the scholarship limits there, but I
That'd
think
be Vanderbilt.
yes. But
Kind of narrows the list down there, Dad.
yeah, yeah. But and all the coaches talk about that. But yeah, I college baseball is my main beat right now, and I grew up loving baseball and still do, and that's why when I did my schedule a week or two ago, I put down Thursday off. It's a national holiday.
Yeah. Billy, I mean, I think Frank Duffy brought that up. Our friend Dudley, Frank Duffy, is getting to do the PA announcer for the Detroit Tigers preseason games down in Lakeland, Florida. And then yesterday he was a guest DJ on the Jimmy Buffett Network. I mean, Frank, Billy, is Frank perhaps the world's most interesting man? Is he doing a Dos Equis beer commercial soon?
He needs to be. Yeah, Frank's a renaissance man.
Hold that thought. We're going to come right back because I've got a bunch of questions on baseball for y'all. Right back.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
Tell you what, I am looking so forward to when we're able to get that great bump music back. My wife, Audrey, is a bump musicologist. She and Michael Sag love to pick those songs. We can do like a dozen in every show, but because of restrictions y'all know about with YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, there's some kind of algorithm out there that'll grab you and get you if you play something like Led Zeppelin or some Skinner or some Jethro Tull, In the Jungle, which is Billy's favorite song. No, but Billy, I don't know where we look like tall, medium, short. We lost you on that.
I leaned back too far much.
Whether you're gonna get some gefilte fish, hey, okay. But both of y'all, I want to get y'all's thoughts too. Coach Thompson talks about the pitch count, and y'all know about the pitch count, but again, engage your guests. That's great advice. Dan Matthews, executive producer of Chuck Oliver Show, and Chuck and Chernoff, and you turned me on to all that years ago, Billy, in Atlanta. But he's right. I want both of y'all, starting with Billy first, then Dudley, the pitch count, and also something Coach Thompson said last Saturday. People don't think about this that much, but the catcher throws the ball a hell of a lot in every game too.
Yeah, but he doesn't throw it.
I know. I knew you'd say that.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I think the difference is a pitcher, when he's got to throw a 3-2 pitch to a spot, there's stress there, and the catcher's just kind of lobbing it back out. He's not, unless he's throwing down the second, where he's got to throw it with a little anger. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of debate about pitch count. I mean, we've had a famous pitching coach here in Atlanta, Leo Mazzoni, for a long time, and he was famously against pitch counts and coddling, pitchers. He felt like they needed to throw more and develop arm strength and not throw less. And, that was kind of like, when the young Braves players were coming up, they lasted a long time. Several of them had Hall of Fame careers and directly benefited from his throwing regimen. He famously would have Camp Leo before spring training, where they would show up in Atlanta a month before spring training and throw in the stadium, develop arm strength before they went to Florida, which was highly controversial. But rarely did the Braves have a lot of arm problems, particularly except for Avery. I mean, he was like a young guy that had arm problems, but other than him, a lot of those guys had long careers.
Yeah, and I would say a couple of things. Number one, pitch count. Having been a fan of Bob Gibson, obviously when he was pitching, what pitch count? But I have grown in my thinking over the years, with the number of injuries and things that have come along. And so I think there is certainly a method to the madness there, and that you, especially depending on how long you've played baseball and how much stress you've put on those arms. You've got to gauge that a little bit. But pitch count, yes, I'm for. Pitch clock, not at all.
Yeah.
I don't understand why there's got to have all the new rules with 20 seconds. I mean, in the Cardinals spring training game yesterday, I think there were 4 balls called, because a guy wasn't in the box or the pitcher, wasn't ready. And it's just one of the reasons I love baseball is because it matches up with my attention span.
Yeah.
I can watch a pitch, turn back, watch the pitch. And now if they've got to throw it in 20 seconds, and I realize the games are quicker, and I realize we're doing it to bring in a young audience and all that. But, once again, pitch count good, pitch clock, not so much.
Well, and again, when TV starts dictating the rules to speed up the game, just to get it in a 3-hour window, you have to always be suspicious of that happening. And that's certainly a key. The other one, when you look at a baseball roster, 11.7 over 35, basically every player gets a third of a scholarship. There are probably cases where one just absolute star gets the full ride. But NIL, I guess, is kicking in. We're not hearing that much about it. But if you can, maybe he doesn't get a scholarship, but he gets the NIL money. But baseball in Arkansas and Georgia, all these southern states on the little league level, middle school, high school, is huge. Billy, what does East Cobb bring in? 350, 400 teams? That is a factor.
Yeah, and many of those guys have graduated to the major league. So, that gets noticed too. That's working. But, that also gets back to pitch count a little bit. These kids that are playing travel baseball, they're blowing up their arms at a young age because they're not playing a lot of different sports. I'm sure all of us are, remember when you played every sport, and every sport had a season, and you didn't specialize in something at 9 years old. To the detriment of the other sports. You played every sport, and your friends played every sport with you, and that was part of the fun of it. But now that, people have specialized and they've got 9-year-olds on travel teams and they're playing 10 months out of the year, you're going to have a Tommy John surgery by the time you're 17 years old, because you've worn your arm out. So that's something that when we get back to pitch count, you got to protect arms because of that. The advent of travel baseball and year-round baseball, which didn't exist up until the last 20 years or so.
Yeah. And Dudley, when you look in college baseball, so many more players now are opting to go for that minimum 3-year hitch. When you sign with a college, you got to play at least 3 years versus going straight to the minor leagues. If you're a first-round pick, it's hard to walk away from that kind of money. But after that, there's a big drop-off. As long as we keep it like that, the college game is going to continue to attract a lot of talent. That's my take. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think college baseball is better for it. There certainly have been great players ahead of the current era we're in. And they've gone on and had great careers. But I do think seasoning in terms of baseball is a real good deal. I do also, in talking about scholarships, I do think NIL is a thing there too. I think Paul Skins, who's a phenomenal pitcher for LSU. I think he probably would have been here at Arkansas if the NIL thing had matched up. And I know that they had to be drooling over how he pitched, even though he lost, even though he started a game that the LSU lost to Arkansas, when they exploded in the 9th inning. But I just think there's so many aspects of college baseball that are getting better that, or why it's so popular right now and while everybody's, wanting to get to Omaha. Last night, Omaha came to Arkansas and Arkansas beat them 16-3. Their baseball program kind of got some of that LSU taste out of their mouth. But it's just a great era right now, I think, for college baseball.
Yeah, and when we were all coming up, it was Cal State, Fullerton, Long Beach, Southern Cal. Rod Ditto won 11 or 12 national championships.
Sounds like warm weather places.
Yeah, exactly. But what's interesting, and they're going to Saturday, April 8th, when Auburn has their A-Day football game, they're going to unveil the statue. Right after that, Auburn plays baseball against, I think, Texas A&M in a 3-game series. Frank Thomas, ironically, the big hurt out of Columbus, Georgia, went to Billy. Didn't he go to Brookstone originally? He finished at Columbus High School, the Blue Devils, but he's the first ever SEC baseball player to be inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. And she'll like it too. He does those commercials. We all know about those.
But that's almost hard to believe, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Well, Roger Clemens would have been a guy from Texas that, if he would ever make the Hall of Fame, which he probably won't, he would be another guy that played significantly in college, but not in the SEC, obviously.
Well, has Dudley or Billy, have any of the guys from the roid rage era with the protruding visors coming over their eyeball, have any of those guys or are any of those guys ever, do you think, and get into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame?
I think probably eventually, but right now there's still, there's still some bias. I certainly enjoyed the late 1990s in baseball, and I didn't worry about it too much. I would go in the St. Louis locker room and I would see various things in the top of the top of the locker. I didn't know what they were. There's too many consonants in those things for me to understand medically what's going on there. But it was fun, and baseball needed fun back then, just like in the NBA needed Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and all them at a time to, move it forward.
Well, and it's true. And Billy, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, 98, 99, that was and the comparison to Roger Maris and his 61 home runs. Who is the best hitter, Billy? And then I want to ask, I've got a follow-up to Dudley. Billy, who's the best hitter in Major League Baseball, AL or NL?
At the moment, I would say Troupe. That would be my guess, out of the Anaheim.
Yeah. Dudley? I
would agree with him. I think that obviously Trout's a great overall player. And going back, I still stick with Tony Gwynn.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about contemporary players. Yeah, Gwynn, absolutely. And Carew before that, he was a hit machine. So
Wade Boggs in there too.
Now, I'm going to throw a vote in for Chipper Jones here in Atlanta. I love him.
Chipper Jones. Was that your favorite one, Audrey?
That guy can play.
He lived in Atlanta.
And
she called him Choker Jones.
No.
Dude.
Oh, Mildred, you're fired. You're fired.
Top rope.
God, off the
He
top
came off
rope.
the top rope.
I mean, the guys that play 20 years and still retire with a 300 lifetime average, that separates
incredible.
people right there,
Yeah.
And he made hits when it mattered. He was clutch, unlike what Audrey just mentioned. The guy, with everything on the line, delivered. And part of the reason why I was a little bummed that Dansby left, he was clutch. After the 7th inning, that guy was just a different player, than in the early parts of the ball game. So the Cubs have got him. He'll do great things for them. We're going to miss him here in Atlanta, but that guy's clutch. And
I guess I should throw out Albert Pujols too, probably.
Oh my God, one of my favorite players of all time.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it's funny. Chipper Jones from the Bowles Academy down in Jacksonville, Florida, came to Atlanta. He was huge, still is. You know who his favorite college team is, don't you? Roll Tide.
I thought it was the Gators.
Oh no, I understand he's a big Alabama fan. As is Laura Ingraham, or however you pronounce that name. But Dudley and Billy, in fairness, my wife making that comment, having lived in Atlanta for those 10 years about Chipper Jones, she also the other night was saying, who is playing? Is that team Gorgonzola? I went, Gonzaga? Gorgonzola? You gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding me, pal. Were you born that stupid or did you work on it? I love you, Audrey, but Gorgonzola. Dudley, Billy, have y'all ever had a Gorgonzola? It's good on a steak, though. By the way, Billy and Dudley, if you ever go to Memphis, you go to this steakhouse called Folks Folly. Since 1977. It is incredible. There's a steak. It's not on the menu. But in 1992, we brought in General Norman Schwarzkopf to an investor conference. And we had about 5,000 people at the Pyramid. retail, institutional clients and all. And I'll never forget when the agency panel got into their discussion about agency securities and all, the number of people slumped over that looked like they had died and were drooling. It was brutal. But the night before, they took General Schwarzkopf out for dinner at Folks Folly and said, General Schwarzkopf, any special requests that you'd like to order? And he goes, well, I live at Fort McDill Air Force Base down in Tampa, Central Command. I love seafood. Could you put some crab meat and a little blue cheese, stuff it in my filet? Yes, sir, General Schwarzkopf. So order the General Schwarzkopf filet if you go to Folks Folly. I highly recommend it. It is so good. That and the tomahawk filet. If you were walking the Green Mile to the guillotine, the electric chair, having to, listen to Ben Stein give a lecture for 3 hours, you take your pick. That's what you want to eat on the way out. That's along with a tub of ice cream. I always love the last request people get when they're walking the Green Mile. A 20-piece bucket, 2 gallons of chocolate chip ice cream. Man, think about it. But Gorgonzola did not make the Elite Eight this year. Almost, though, Audrey. Keep pulling for Gorgonzola. For both of y'all, though, you're talking about these great hitters and how hard it is. And you think about Rafael Palmeiro and Will Clark when they were at Mississippi State. When we were all in college, that group, Frank Thomas, Greg Olson, Bo Jackson, you had Thigpen, Brantley. In the mid-'80s, Dudley, Arkansas was still in the Southwest Conference. Texas and Augie Garrido, that was a dynasty. Talk about how college baseball was back then and where it is today. Was it that big at Arkansas when you were in school?
They had George Cole Field when I was here. It seated maybe 3,500. Now there's stadium seats over 10,000. They've got facilities that match. Anyway, Norm DeBryan did a wonderful job in building up the program and turning it over to one of his former players, and Dave Van Horn, who's just taken it to, unbelievable heights. But Coach DeBryan did have several teams that I think 3 that went to the College World Series. Kevin McReynolds, the former Met, was one of the key guys on there, and Tim Lawler, who pitched for the White Sox, and different things. So it was a good sport that had great years. Now it's a great sport that has mostly great years. I mean, I can think of only one bad year during the Dave Van Horn era, and he came right back out the next year and went to the College World Series.
Yeah. Here's a comment, Billy, from Artemis Pyle, Jacksonville, Florida, from the Hell House. We all know about him. A deck of ex-wives also made Chipper Jones famous. Wow. Artemis Pyle, who, by the way, recently played at Lafayette's Music Room in Overton Square in Midtown Memphis. And anytime if you go to a concert when Billy Joel comes to Memphis, he'll say, when I was a nobody, just trying to be the piano man, I used to play at Lafayette's Music Room. And when we were kids in high school, guys, at the East End Ballroom, we used to go watch The Police. I think U2 would come. Nobody ever heard of these guys. And they turned out to be, kind of big. It's kind of big. But for both of y'all, I think there's a symbiotic relationship. It's back and forth, college baseball and Major League Baseball. We're following these guys in college now like we do the college basketball and football players. I think that's what's happening, and it's kind of the annuitization of baseball. I grew up Cardinals fan. Hey, did this sound familiar to you? Jack Buck and Mike Shannon. You remember this? The ice cold Anheuser-Busch products. Growing up, going to Boy Scout Camp Cherokee up in Hardy. We didn't go to Kakima. We went to the primitive camp because they'd send us there for 2 weeks. We would get a radio and listen to Jack Buck and Mike Shannon. About the 6th or 7th inning, Mike Shannon would be speaking in tongues. But that's what made it so great. So look, let's take a break. More baseball. Harry Carey with us right after this.
Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection. And they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, questions. We got some questions coming in from some other listeners. I like to keep these people anonymous, so these names, but gotta love this one, man. Bob Wills. Is Bob Wills still the king of swing in Texas? Bob Wills out in Plano, Texas. Yeah, Plano, Texas. Bob Wills asking, he said, for either of the gentlemen, they were both very baseball savants. That's a good term for y'all. Y'all are both, I mean, you know what? They can have those guys on ESPN with those funny accents. I got y'all too. This is awesome. But is the farm system in baseball as important as it used to be now with the growth of college baseball? Billy, you heard Dudley, yeah, whoever, yeah.
I would say no. I mean, I think it is still important, but not as much as it used to be, because college baseball, I think, is getting players much more ready. Readier is maybe not a word. Much more developed as they get toward the time they will be drafted.
Yeah, and Norm Crosby, wasn't he that would butcher those words?
Right.
Readier and strategery with President Bush. That was a great.
Yeah,
no, but I know what you're saying. That's what I'm thinking. I'm just college baseball, Dudley. You just nailed it. They're getting ready quicker in college, and they're getting 3 years of education if they're going to class, Billy.
Yeah, but in the major leagues, in the minors, obviously exist to serve the parent team. You still have the advent of the international player, and these guys can sign a contract at 16 years old, which, in America, you got to be 18 to sign an agreement, kind of legal contract. So what they're going to need to do for Major League Baseball is have an international draft, to kind of approximate the North American draft that they've got today. But as long as you are bringing in 16-year-old international players, they're going to need seasoning, and they're going to have to get that through the minor leagues, because those guys are not typically, doing college baseball because they're not getting the college scholarship to come play. They probably would if they could get scholarships. So that's the crux of the problem, again. And I also think, and I mentioned this to Coach Thompson, college baseball at some point, if they would go to the wooden bats, it would be easier for the pro scouts to evaluate their hitting ability and their pitching ability instead of the aluminum bats. That's a differentiator that's hard to. I'm sure they do make their evaluations anyway, but it would make a lot of difference. But it's an expensive thing to do, to supply a bunch of wooden bats. I know that's probably why the college teams don't do it, but that would help the on-field product. It would help the players develop faster, even more than they are now. And, there's got to be some way to get Yellowwood to sponsor that and put the logo on those bats.
Well, yeah.
At least for Auburn, having Yellowwood bats for Auburn, if no other team.
The Yellowwood bat's a great NIL deal. And Ben Troupe's on here with us right now. And here's an interesting question from another one of our listeners in Laredo, Texas, Freddie Fender. I'll be there before the election. Freddie Fender says lots of more Latin America in minor league baseball now. And Dudley, you cannot discount going down to Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, the Dom Rep, people that get out of Cuba come up here, but Venezuela, baseball down there is what it was in America, 100 years ago? Is that a fair thing to say, Dudley?
Yeah, I think so. No, it's very important to them, but it's a development stage. I think that's a very good point. But it's, there are so many more talented players on a roster these days or in an organization that didn't start their baseball in America, and I think that's good.
Yeah. All right, let's head over to Savannah, Swainsboro, Georgia. Gator All-American Ben Troupe, and played in the NFL 5 years. Like to give people's resumes and Twitter handles and blood types, everything else. Yeah. But Ben, let me ask you this, and this is an interesting question. We got Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, Billy Roberts up in Atlanta, a brave zoologist. Went to Auburn with me. But did you play every sport when you were? How tall are you, Ben? 6'9"? No, 6'4".
Yeah, 6'4", 6'4". Yeah, somewhere.
Okay. Did you play every sport?
These days, but yeah, I still think I'm 6'4". Hopefully.
You are. Did you play every sport coming up? Were you a
multi-sport? I played every sport that my mom will let me play. I tried to do everything. I mean, soccer. My dad was a big basketball guy. I was a fan of offense. I wasn't a fan of both sides of the court. So, that wasn't going to work for me, but soccer, obviously football, as a track. So that really took up all my time. Football, track, and obviously soccer. But I think that nowadays, people get so specific really, really quickly. Like I think being a youngster now, listen, you 10 years old with a trainer, like all he does is baseball, or all they do is I think that kind of stuff is dangerous only because this is the last time you're gonna get to do it all. Because the older you get, you got to be more specific. I know LeBron spends $2 million on his body every summer, but he takes a break like he does. You just have to. I think now more than ever, when you talk about youth sports, listen, my daughter plays flag football. My daughter plays basketball. My daughter plays soccer. And the only reason why she don't play tackle football is because her daddy said no. That's going to be a big hell no. You're not. Yeah. And mind you, I have to deal with, oh, daddy, you think the boys are better than me, stronger than me. I said, no, them boys going to make an example out of you. And I can't beat up every parent, out there. So I do think that youth sports is, let's call it what it is. Youth sports might be the last time you play sports. Like you might not, because then it's about how many you can get, how big the league is. The older you get, the competition gets better. And I just think that when you think about like what I see, like even with the whole baseball thing, America doesn't focus on baseball like they do overseas. We don't focus on it. The best players in the MLB, they're from South America. Yeah. Tatis and Ronald Acuna Jr. But that's by design because to them, their baseball is our football. That's what they have. Outside of what Manny Ramirez or a Big Papi, I don't see too many guys 250, 230. They be smaller, fast. And listen, Ronald Acuna, if you listen, I love you to death. I want you to be a Brave for life. I don't ever want you to leave. I want them to sign an indefinite contract forever. But I'm just saying but baseball to me is a sport that we don't have enough quote Americans doing it because we don't focus. It's not that you have a lack of players now. Baseball, listen, Kevin Thomas, who I'm on the show with, this boy and his two sons, their weekends been done for the last 7 years. They all over the state of Georgia. So it's not a lack of participation. Yeah. It's just a lack of focus, like attention to detail, because only in America that the top two players in baseball don't even make the playoffs. So Tiny and Mike Trout, they don't even make the – name another sport that happened. That does not happen in any – and listen, and Otani, I don't know where they made him at. They carved it. I know LeBron and Michael Jordan. I ain't never seen – if Otani was American, you couldn't write a check big enough. If this dude was from America and I'm a Cy Young winner and I'm an AL MVP and I can hit, man, you would have to give me a big – I would want part ownership of the Angels. They ain't doing nothing else. They ain't going to the playoffs. Get that man some stake in the freaking Angels, man. I ain't never seen nothing like Otani, and I've been watching obviously baseball my whole life. But Otani, oh my freaking God! He can strike out the side, and he went 5 for 5. That's come on, man. Get out of here with that.
Yeah, I mean, Billy, you played, you're from LaGrange, and Ben's from over across the state in Swainsboro, and you think about it, and Dudley, you're in Arkansas where travel league baseball, and in Memphis, my God, my high school, Christian Brothers, you go down Walnut Grove, you'll see the wall. I think 12 or 13 state championships and 14 runner-ups. Baseball's big. Tim McCarver, they had the team, I think 1959 CBHS football team had Tim McCarver, Buddy Sofaker, who was an All-American linebacker at LSU, and Mike Frocky, a great running back at Alabama. We have over 10,000 alumni, but God, baseball's big, Dudley and Billy. And hey, Ben, Billy's over in Atlanta. He is what I call a Bravesologist. And you're there in Savannah. Baseball's huge, but you're right. It's a cultural, almost religion, Billy. When you say, what's that connection the Braves have with some players that are now on the team that was started by a former player in Curacao, Billy?
Yeah, well, Andrew Jones, he was our over for a long time, and he's from Curacao, and he had a tradition every year where he would bring up like the kids from the island that won the island championship. And he had Julio Tehran, Albies is the current second baseman. These guys all are from Curacao. Jair Jurgens a couple years ago, I think he's from Curacao. He was on the Braves team. But what he would do is he'd bring these 12-year-olds up that had never traveled before, but he would treat them to a Braves game and show them Atlanta and just lit their imagination. And you guys can play in the majors one day. And a bunch of them have. We had Andrelton Simmons a couple years ago, shortstop. He's from Curacao. And it's not just the Braves, but the Braves certainly they've got a heck of a coach and a scout down there that have camped out in Curacao and just mined for gold down there. I mean, it's the number of major leaguers that have come from that tiny island is astounding. But it all started with Andrew Jones. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Dudley, it looks like your background. Is that the Spring River? Are you up in Hardy?
No, I don't believe so.
I love that. I love that background. But what Ben's saying about these little islands, the Dom Rep, Cuba, Puerto Rico, you get down there. I don't know what Aruba does, but Curacao, they don't have great facilities down there, but these kids are hungry. And you've got a lot of kids nowadays that are chauffeured around by their parents. And Ben, I was talking to Tracy Rocker one time about kids versus when he played college. He said, hell, we were outside playing all the time, running from our parents, the cops, each other, so was I. That's what Billy and that's what we did. Our parents had to come find us to get us in. They had to hunt us down at night. But that being outside all the time, repetition is the mother of all skill. But I think these kids that are coming up here, Latin America, most of them are just tougher than the American kids. I think we need to toughen up the kids because look at the portal. It's a winatorium for the most people.
Well, I mean, Ben, on one of the earlier shows that you were on that I think I was part of, you were making the analogy that these kids today sit in the air conditioning and when they go for conditioning and stuff, they're not used to being outside and working hard, and the coaches have to beat the crap out of them to get them to condition in the tough conditions and the humidity.
Yeah, and the thing about it is a coaching staff is a mixture of both old school coaching and new school coaching. You got a mixture of both. But the thing about it is no matter what people don't like to talk about it, but old school coaching works because old school coaching is not based on who you are, what you are, how you look. This is what it is. There's a reason why certain coaches are extremely successful year in and year out. And you're right. When we was kids, look, man, we used to drink out the hose pipe, right? I mean, we used to, I'm a country boy, so we use sport as a means to get out of our mama's house. They're kicking us out anyway. Get out of our house. But let's call it what it really is. The community has changed so much. Like when I was coming up, man, everybody knew who played sports. Yes, you still had crime. Yes, you still had, bad things going on. It never happened to us. And we knew who did what. I think the world with technology, man. I mean, some of the laziest people are in the Troupe family. I love my family to death. If I got to compete with TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, cell phones, tablets, because what happens is, I remember when Kim Kingsbury first got the job with the Arizona Cardinals, he said, we're going to have like a cell phone hour. I'm like, what the hell is that? Just make sure they get like an hour. No, it's called before work, after work. That's when you get because Belichick don't do that. Harbaugh don't do. Whenever you start trying to like bend the rules to adhere to what we are now, man, get out of here with the nonsense. They're in a job working that they're gonna get our cell phone break. That's called a lunch break. That's when you get to do it. Because I think that what happens is now, Billy, is the fact that it's the coaches, man. It's these parents. It's not these kids. It's these parents. It's these and nobody wants to be at the Little League baseball game with the daddy who dead serious, right? They don't want to deal with that kid. The kid who, hey, man, I don't want that kid on my team. But the dad is understanding, look, man, I don't want my kid to get participation trophies. I got recruited by the South Carolina Gamecocks back in 1999 to 2000 when they went 0 and whatever. They lost every game. Yeah. Lou Holtz was the head coach. I went to their banquet. They've lost every game in 2 years, and he gave out winning certificates. I said, what the hell is that? Like, what? Like, think about this. I said, wait a minute. We didn't win a game. They got Kalimba Edwards on that team. They got John Abraham was on that team, wow. And he gave out winning certificates. I said, Daddy, what is a winning certificate? He said, I don't know, son, but you ain't coming here. You ain't coming to no side. Because how do you explain that? We ain't won a game. I got a winning certificate. What does that mean? So I think that those participation trophies and trying to be politically correct and not roughing up, man, forget all that. Yeah. People are going to talk about you right, wrong, and different. I appreciate those coaches that are hard-nosed because you might not like their methodology. Look at the bottom line. They win it all the time because they making you, settle into a culture.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you one thing. Being tough will take you through life. Being weak will not. But Dudley, go ahead. And Dudley, make sure before you check out, I know you've got to get to a meeting, but let people know how they can follow you and all the great work you do at hogville.net, as they say in the upper Midwest, not Hogville.
Ben was making some really good points there, and I may be one of the few people that almost got kicked out of the youth center here in Fayetteville during a fourth grade basketball game because they didn't keep score, but I did. And I told our kids, that we were winning, or losing or whatever. And they said, you can't do that. And I said, there's no reason to play a game unless you're keeping score.
Yeah.
And so that rule went by the wayside by the end of the year. So I like to take credit for that. If you're playing a game, you keep score, period. End of story. That's it. Yeah. But I do have to step out. But hogville.net is the message board that I'm on and website. We're still doing good work there. fearlessfriday.com. Just continuing to now step into some high school baseball stories. So, always enjoy being on with you guys. It's a great quartet we had here today.
Absolutely, man. But now to give you I love your Twitter address now. You're named after who?
I'm named after a cartoon character named Dudley Do-Right. But it's Dead Sports, DED Sports at AOL.com. And, I've got to go out and save damsels in distress since my name is Dudley. So,
hey, Dudley, by the way, I'm with you completely on everything you just said about keeping score. We're going to do it more right after this on Sidelines. Dudley, see you next week. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Later, guys.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
All right, we are back. I know Billy is back had to get a call. So anyway, and Dudley had to get going, but Ben and I are going to carry this thing on. And then Coach John Brady will be on here with us in about 11 or 12 minutes. And Ben, I love what you said about the toughness part of it. And Dudley pointed something out. Any group of parents that allows, and my kids are from 22 to 34, 2 boys, 2 girls. And my son that lives in Charlotte told me, he's 25, several years ago, he said, Dad, it's not the kids today that are the problem. It's just parents. And Ben, you were raised the right way. And I always tell people, you make sure and read your book, Unfinished, Uncommon, Unfinished. It's a great book about life, about, growing up in the country and about people looking out for each other and also getting a switch to your ass when you stepped out of line, and I mean, I had friends of mine, whose moms gave me a whipping 1 or 2 times because they knew me, and what are the 3 things you got to have in life to be successful? Responsibility, authority, and accountability. If you're not held accountable, what are you going to do? You've coached, I've coached different sports. There's no participation trophies. Hell no. You know what? Cross country, you're all first team at that starting line. These are your teammates, your siblings, your friends. But when that starting gun goes off between the start and the finish, they're all in your way. You got to pass them by. Good sportsmanship. And the greatest lessons that you learn, I remember hearing this from somebody, told me this. He said, you'll learn as much from the people that you beat as you will from the people that beat you. Just keep your composure. Ben, you're extremely competitive. How many kids do you have? 3?
3, yes.
All girls?
No, 2 girls and a boy.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, and I have 2 older sisters that still treat me like I'm a kid, but, and I've got 2 boys, 2 girls, and you want your kids to be competitive. And I notice when I'm out with people that I meet, I don't care who they are. Acknowledge people. Say hello to them. Look them in the eye. Let them know they matter. And one thing, a city like Memphis, and I've been to Savannah several times, but I don't live there. You live there, but Memphis is the largest small town in America, about 1.2 million people. But everybody here is 2 or 3 generations removed from living in a small town in the Mississippi Delta, whether it be East Arkansas, North Mississippi Delta, or West Tennessee. That's what makes Memphis a great city. Sports-wise, I mean, we are passionate about our Memphis Tigers, about the Grizzlies, and you got all these SEC schools on top of that. But if you take away the competitiveness and you don't instill competitiveness and keeping score and learning, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. It's always better to win. But don't let a loss beat you the next game and the next game. You got to get over it quickly. Those are lessons of life, Ben. I mean, look what you have done. Sports, that doesn't define who you are. You're a very smart guy. In the time that I've gotten to know you on this show, the recommendations from Buddy Martin and Franz Beard, who I think was James Bond's double in the double. And he is an interesting. I love Franz.
Franz is that guy. Yeah.
And they love you. They're going, you got to get Ben Troupe on the show. You got to get him on there. But you're right. You got to lay it out there and call it what it is. These kids coming up from Curacao and the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, they're not coming. They weren't born into a culture where they have facilities like what we have up here. But one thing they bring with them every day, they bring that old steel lunchbox Frank Beamer had on the sidelines at Virginia Tech. They're going to outwork you. And if you're not ready to fight, they're going to take your job, and that's life.
Yeah. And I think that the difference in those guys and over here is you got to do it by a certain time. I think it's age 16 to 18. If you haven't been discovered by then, it's over with. Now, you think about that. Most of us, we're in high school from 16 to 18. And the last thing we're thinking about is trying to make it. We're trying to make it to the bigs, but to us, we got to go to college first. So even basketball 1 year, you think about guys like Isaiah Alberts. You think about guys like Ron LaCunha, Tatis and those guys. Yeah. They come with a mentality because they represent Curacao, they represent Venezuela, they represent Dominican Republic. So they saying, look, yes, I'm a great player, but this is what I had to be just to get noticed over there. And then I got to come over here to the bigs. I mean, Otani said it. I think, obviously we just lost. USA just lost. Otani was like, listen, man, let's not admire them today. Let's go out there and compete with these. Yes, we understand that the best players in the world in the MLB. I get that part, but let's not admire them. Let's go out there and try to beat them. Competition is one of the greatest things ever because it teaches you so much. Yes, I mean, it's like when people get mad when you lose, you say, well, that other team was pretty good too, man. They prepared too.
Yeah.
But but the thing is, it's how frantic it is when you are winning. Because no one, it's like getting to the top of the hill, wanting to stay to the top of the hill, Rob, but understanding what it took. Like Bill Belichick said it the best, man, and Nick Saban, those guys said what it took to get here, it's gonna take that and even more to stay here. Because people will go, Deion Sanders said it. Your talent gets you drafted. Your mind keeps you there. Because everybody around you is good. And I think that I'm never gonna judge amateurs against pros. Like when they did the whole show Pros versus Joes, that's Jerry Rice. No, that's retired Jerry Rice. Because when Jerry Rice is at his peak, nobody could stop him. At his peak. So I think that the thing about the competition thing, what people forget is, even when they stop keeping score, man, you got to compete. We competing for jobs. We competing for visibility. We competing to try to get the best salaries. We competing to be the best husbands, to be the best sons, to be the best, whatever these roles are. But I think it's healthy to those that embrace it. Right? They love every minute of it. And to those that is in that environment, Rob, that didn't understand, I don't want to compete. Pick something else because. We trying to get better each week. It's like I come on Sidelines because I know, look, man, I respect Rob Browne and what he's doing. I respect the fact that this is a open forum to be able to say what you want to say, how you want to say. And Rob, when it comes to media, oh my God, the quickest way to get out of media is to tell the truth. To say what you really think. Oh no. I have to say what I think, but I have to dumb it down. No, the dumbing down of competition, the dumbing down of facts, what may have you is why I think a lot of the world is the way it is. But a platform like, a show like Sidelines, the reason why people come on is because they get to be themselves. They get to say how they feel it. And, man, we get to have some fun while we're doing it.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's what I love about having you on is that free speech is alive and well. And you've got Charles Barkley. Why is he so beloved by so many people? I was at Auburn when he was there. He always speaks his mind. But you know what Charles does? Charles supports, he doesn't support just Auburn. I know people that work with him, and I'm not going to say anything other than that he's a very kind and generous guy, but he'll tell it like it is. He remembers as a kid going to a private school there in Leeds, and the coach didn't want to play him. And he, hey, man, why? But you know what he did? He hung in there and he worked. When Bobby Knight sent him home from the Olympic trials, remember? Because he was overweight. He goes, you can't keep going home to your grandmother's and eating. Like, come on, man. Well, he got the message. And Sonny Smith said on the show one time, his coach at Auburn, he says, I should have coached him better. I'm like going, Coach, that's like Michelangelo saying I should have done a better job on the frescoes in the Sistine Chapel. Come on, Sonny. I love Sonny Smith, but you did a great job.
Yeah.
But and you also hit on something. God, it just hit me in the head like that. You just said these guys are coming from Curacao or Dominican Republic or Venezuela. They ain't representing, Florida or Alabama or Arkansas. They're representing their entire country. And you know what else I love? I remember do you remember a player at Auburn named Carlos Dansby?
Yeah, I remember Carlos Dan. Carlos Dan was around my time at
he was.
At the same time linebacker. Yeah, I know Carlos.
Yes. See, and he came to Auburn out of Woodlawn High School in Birmingham. And Woodlawn, I think, is the oldest black high school in Birmingham. And it is the center of pride, like Melrose High School in Orange Mound in Memphis. And you remember when they were in the Super Bowl and everybody's, like going, Ben Troupe, tight end, number 87, University of Florida, go Gators. He said, he got on there and he said, Carlos Dansby, Woodlawn High School, Birmingham, Alabama. And I remember Paul Feinbaum asked him like a day or two later on his show, or maybe a week later, why did you do that? And he said, let me tell you something, Paul. My blood runs orange and blue. Don't question that. He goes, I'm from Birmingham. He goes, I wanted to give every one of those people in Woodlawn something to be proud of and a source of pride. And I love where I'm from, and I'm proud of it. And he talked about how much he loved Auburn, but it's where he's from. You know who else went to Woodlawn High School? Bobby Bowden. Now, I shouldn't say that to you. Bobby Bowden went to Woodlawn, okay? Greg Gant, punt, Bama punt, 1972. David Langner. David Langner went to Woodlawn High School, who returned both of those for Auburn's 17-16 win. Greg Carr, great linebacker at Auburn, played 7 years for the Steelers, studied medical school in the offseason. He's now an orthopedic surgeon in Birmingham. November 30th, 2013. I guess they're going to go ahead and try to kick this field goal. There's 1 second left. Here's Davis back in the end zone. He's going to run it back. Oh, my! Chris Davis went to Woodlawn High School.
Chris Davis. Oh, my God. The greatest play. It might be the greatest play in the SEC history. It's definitely the greatest play in Iron Bowl history because I said, but even what you said about Carlos Dansby, him telling Paul Feinbaum, he's saying, look, man, I could never repay Auburn for what they did for my career. But Woodlawn, that's who I am. That's not my career. That's who I am. And I think that's the thing. Like I always tell people all the time, I went to Butler High School. I graduated from Butler High School to Butler High School Bulldogs. All I ever wanted to be was a Swainsboro Tiger. I grew up in Swainsboro until I was in the 5th grade. And it's something about when you are like a little local celebrity because it's all you got is swing. There's standing room only on Friday nights, and then you got basketball season, then you got track season. When you from small towns that everybody knows everybody, and you just one of the next group of athletes coming through there, you love that stuff. You can't wait to show, hey man, what do we do in Woodlawn? We do this. I'm on the biggest stage in the world. I'm in the Super Bowl. Carlos Dansby had an incredible postseason that him and Larry Fitzgerald had an incredible postseason that year when the Arizona Cardinals in the Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they had a chance to win that thing. Yeah. Listen, I'm always in awe of people like Carlos Dansby. I remember he was at Auburn when they had the glory days. He was at Auburn when they didn't, but he never wavered as a player. He still was an incredible player. So a friend of mine that I wrote my first children's book with, Judy and John, Miko Polka. She actually went to school the same time, Ronnie Browne and Carlos Rogers Carlos Dansby. And she always talking about how humble Carlos Dansby was. I said, well, as humble as he was as a man, he would knock the hell out of you on the football field. That he's the type of linebacker that they're looking for now. 6'3", 6'4", 250, can run, can hit, can cover. Hey man, I've had some good days and bad moments with a guy like Carlos Dansby. When you spell Carlos with a K and not a C, that's a bad man, people. That's a bad man.
Well, you know what was neat? Gene Chizik told me this, that he was coaching defensive. He was defensive coordinator at that time in 02, 3, and 4 for Tommy Tuberville at Auburn. And he had come from University of Central Florida when Coach Brady Young. And so they were at practice one day, and Coach Chizik had coached a couple of Jim Thorpe Award winners, and he told Carlos Dansby, he said, Carlos, I've coached some great defensive backs, in my day as a coach. I think you could be an all SEC defensive back, but I think your money position going, in the future, you could have a 10+ year career in the NFL would be linebacker. And he said, Carlos was like, let me think about it. And a day or two later, he said, Coach, I'll play linebacker, and he had a great career. But you think about Carlos Dansby, 16 or 17 years in the NFL, Ben, that is like somebody, Dave Scott in the triathlon world, or Scott Tinley, or an Ironman in coaching who needs to be the next in-studio specialist on the SEC network, a native of Macomb, Mississippi, a 6'4" sophomore with a great shooting touch, averaging 28 points a game, Stufferino, Coach John Brady. How are you?
I'm doing well. Man. I'm in Palm Springs in the desert.
Terrible.
It's 7:30 in the morning out this way, so this was big for me to get up at 7:30 and talk to you two wonderful young men.
Hey, thank you, Coach. Palm Springs, 29 Palms. It's beautiful out there where you are in the desert. But we've been talking about, the toughness of teams and this Final Four, and about how they got sometimes now they don't want to keep score, they don't want to hurt the kids' feelings. You got to be tough, and I don't know, and I'm sure you go speak, and I know Ben does, but when you speak to people, I mean, you don't have to say it's your demeanor, Coach. You are dead serious when you're talking about toughness and discipline. I love that Nick Saban. It's about a 9-minute speech. I recommend everybody listen to it on YouTube about toughness. Coach Saban. I know you were at LSU when he was there.
Right.
Think about his first year there. They lost to UAB. Remember his first year at Alabama? He talked about losing to Louisiana Monroe, and he goes, that may have been the worst day of my coaching life. And after the deal, I've got to go deal with the media, and I got to do all that. Then I went back to the coach's office. I was the last one out of the building, got in my parking lot. My car is on empty. So I'm like, what a day, man. Can it get any worse? So I'm driving down McFarland Boulevard, and I pull into a gas station. I go inside to pay for my gas, and I've got on a national championship ring from LSU in 2003. And the guy checking me out at the cash register said, where'd you get that? He goes, at LSU. And he goes, he goes, well, he goes, we ain't never going to get any of those at Alabama with that sumbitch Saban coaching us. He goes, well, I'll see if we can make that happen.
Well, you mentioned toughness. When I used to recruit a player, all the things you can readily see is size for position, how fast he can run, how high he can jump, whether he can make a basket or not. All of those things you can see from a physical standpoint. But the other thing I used to evaluate prospects on was their toughness. And I always thought toughness was a talent. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I'd take a lesser talented guy if I thought mentally he was tougher and wanted to be coached than somebody who is very talented and thought they had already arrived. And I think all of these 4 teams in the Final Four, if there's one quotient that they do have, they're all tough. They compete. And I think that's what sustained San Diego State, sustained
Coach, hold those thoughts, because this is exactly what people need to be hearing. We'll be right back with Coach John Brady and Ben Troupe after this quick message.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett and Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a 4th-generation residential broker with Hobson Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Coach, you were really hammering out a lot of great points about when I go to recruit a kid, I can see the measurables, the height, the weight, and obviously you're around the mamas and the daddies and the grandparents and the family members. There's a lot of people that are there. And I love the question was asked to Coach O, the mayor of Bayou Lafourche, Louisiana, one time said, what do you do if you're recruiting a kid and they serve you a bad meal? He goes, you ask for seconds.
Yeah. So, how am I supposed to respond to that? I don't know.
You ask for thirds.
You got me, baby. Okay, way to go. But no, but I'd like to hear Ben understands this. I mean, but the toughness quotient in players can be the difference in maybe winning us a championship and sustaining winning, and so especially late in a game. The toughness a guy possesses. Can he take direct coaching? Does he want to be better? Is he driven by a competitive nature that makes him different than the next guy? And I think sometimes, that's the winning formula. Our team is tougher than your team, so therefore we won more of the games.
Yeah, no, I agree. The hardest thing for the onlookers to take in is a coach-player relationship. It's not the relationships you see out in life, especially when it comes to basketball is different because you got 10, 12 guys, and the best player, coach would be yelling and screaming at him, but just look at his face. He just nodding his head because he understands that's what you earn. Like Ron Zook used to tell us, well, you got to earn my respect. And it's not, you're not going to know when you've done it. You'll never know when you've done it. But he says toughness has everything to do with how you respond. Like toughness is just a response. Like Seth Greenberg said, he didn't like the Final Four because he don't like who made it. He don't think it's good for basketball. I think it's great for basketball. I said, what? I think it's great. Mountain West Conference USA, the Big East, and the ACC. Yeah. Nobody saw what Miami, they undersized. UConn been beating the brakes off everybody. San Diego State, this is their first time there. FAU is in freaking Boca Raton. If you've never been to Boca Raton, it is beautiful down there. But I think that what I like about basketball is the one sport to where, man, whoever is the toughest and whoever got the best fundamentals, they're going to be hard to beat. And if they can run, because these four teams are saying, look, if I would have said, give me a team out of the ACC going to be in the Final Four, nobody would have picked Miami. Nobody. Nobody's picking Miami. UConn is kind of the last blue blood. I kind of like left in it. I know it's going to be a Marshall Falk sighting because San Diego State is in the Final Four. He's gonna be there, and I couldn't feel happy for the head coach at FAU. They finally got over the hump. Been really, really good since he's been down there. I do agree with you though, Coach John. It's like toughness is the hardest thing for players to get because we all think we tough because of where we come from. No. People ain't talking about physical toughness. Mental toughness is rough. Yeah. Because we all got it physically. That's what people can see. But we used to have a sideline camera. So if you did not play, they used to call us the juice boys. They'll say, well, ain't no juice coming from the sideline. They showing us on the sideline. Look at him. Pity party. Oh, I didn't play today. He said, so let me get this straight. You ain't rooting for your teammates on the field, but you want to get on it. And I'm telling you, the mental toughness side of things is what's going to carry you through life. That's the part the coach say, hey, man, it don't got to go your way. It don't got to fall in your lap. The Ducks going to never be in a row. And that's the part that I think that most players don't make it on teams, not because they're not good people, but coach say, listen, man, the only players are going to play is the ones I can trust. The only ones I can trust, they got it up here. So the players go, but I don't play, coach. Well, I just told you why. I just told you why you 6'9", 250. You look like LeBron. You don't play like LeBron, but you do. You look nice without your shirt off. Other than that, man, I can't. And that's. I don't know who's going to win this Final Four, but every team in it is well deserved. They've earned it. Because, like I say, if Miami wins it, Coach John, once again, I have to deal with these Miami fans. They trash talk us because I went to Florida, so I got to deal with Florida, Florida State, FAU, FIU. It's going to be a big FU if freaking Miami wins it. That's what they're going to be telling me on Twitter. So I got to get ready for them Hurricanes. If they do win it, though, I always say this. NCAA basketball to me is the greatest form of college athletics because everybody got a shot to get in. It ain't like football where if you ain't, in the SEC or the Ohio State, Michigan, you're not gonna be one of the last. Basketball, you could be undersized like Miami. You could never be in like San Diego State. You could be FAU who scratched and clawed, or you could be UConn. UConn, be very nervous because they're small ball Miami Hurricanes, they coming, boy. And I know UConn has dominated this whole tournament, but Miami's saying, look, man, we waving the flag for the ACC. We not Virginia. We not Duke. We not North Carolina. But guess what? We still in it. I'm looking. My brother's birthday is April the 1st, so he'll be turning 42. It's gonna be a great day for me, no matter what. Get to watch some basketball. Get to watch my brother eat some cake.
Yeah.
But the sustainable comment about toughness that you made, it's sustainable whether you're playing basketball or you're trying to make it in life. And I think that toughness quotient, competitive nature, those things are sustainable throughout your life. And I think that's a great teaching point and really a coaching emphasis that you can carry, outside of competition, because you're going to be competing for something the rest of your life. And I think these teams all have that running through it. And I think the one that probably makes the least amount of mistakes and the one that has the better field goal percentage for the most part, I think will win it. I think it's going to be exciting. And it's been one of the best Final Fours in terms of how these teams got there to follow their path. It's been really exciting to watch, and I think it's going to be an exciting finish.
Well, I love you talking about San Diego State alums. One that you didn't mention, they showed a shot of him. Kawhi Leonard played at San Diego State. And I remember when he signed a $97 million contract about 6 years ago, one of my boys sent me a text. He said, Dad, look at this $97 million contract. And he's driving about a 20-year-old Tahoe that he's had for years. And he just has a very simple apartment and, just never forgot where he came from. Man, you're right. Sightings of the alumni. But I love what you just said, Coach. And I had my Final Four was Alabama, Kansas State, Kansas, and Miami. I'm not kidding. I had Miami in there. I love Jim Larinaga. You know why? Because I don't think 73 is old. I like 85-year-old people that buy puppies. That's optimism, damn it. And I like what Jim Nance said the other day. He goes, people ask, where are the heavyweights? He goes, we've got UConn, 4 national championships, 6th most in history, tied with Kansas. And then Villanova's got a couple in there, but they didn't get there this year, obviously. But you think about this, 3 teams that have never been there. It's the first time we've had 3 of the Final Four that have never been there since 1970. I mean, you can't draw this up better. A Hollywood writer couldn't do this, could he, Coach? I love it.
FAU. Now, if there's any mid-majors out there that are watching, if there's any blueprint on how to get to the Final Four, they need to call Dusty May and sit with him. And what I haven't done is I'd like to see where all the FFU players came from. How did they get to FA? What was their path? Did they transfer in? Were they there as freshmen? If there's an opportunity there, even with the portal and NIL, a lot of those players for FIU were there a year ago. And for some reason they stayed. They didn't jump ship and go somewhere else. And what a blueprint for a mid-major to follow. Call Dusty May and see how'd you do this and use the same approach, because it certainly has worked this year for him. But I think they're the best scoring team left with the 4 teams that are there. They shoot 48% from the floor, 43% from the 3. They've learned to defend. I think last year their team probably wasn't as good defensively. Now they really defend. And I think athletically, they match up with the other 3 teams. I don't think they take a backseat to anybody. And I wouldn't be surprised now if they get in that championship game. It wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah, and you've got the Beach Boys, Florida Atlantic University, Miami, San Diego State, and Connecticut. A little bit more of like Muffy and Constance. We need a fourth. We need a 4th for squash at the Peninsula Club. No can do, Lewis. Connecticut's a little more refined, but I love this Palm Beach and Dade County. Who would have taken those odds in Las Vegas? You think Joey Bag of Donuts would have given you any odds on that? No way. But Coach, do you know Jim Larinaga?
Yeah, he was in the Final Four with me in 06 when he was
With George Mason.
Yeah, we did a couple of
17
things
years
together.
to the day.
Good,
yeah.
Really good guy. I mean, really a good man. Good guy.
And I love, I mean, I don't know Jim Nance, but I love what he said. He goes, again, where are the heavyweights? People ask. You got UConn, but he goes, embrace this moment. Yeah. America, I remember back when we started trying to restrict practice hours and how hard you could work. And coaches that we all grew up with were saying, hell, man, that's anti-American. Our way is, you may not be the most talented physically or speed-wise or whatever, but you can damn sure be the toughest, hard-working, get after your ass team out there. And Ben, you and Coach know that. You've played at the highest level. I mean, without being tough, you don't have a chance. You got to be. What else? That's the one thing you can control is how tough you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mental toughness with talent is a winning combination. I mean, it's sustainable, and that's what these teams have, in my opinion.
Yeah. Them FAU boys, you know what you want to watch from the FAU boys? They got 9 guys that average about 15 minutes. That's fresh legs all game, meaning you got a bunch of guys, they know, like this whole, listen, when I look at FAU, when I look at San Diego State, when I look at Miami, all this, where the heavyweights at, listen, man, in the Bible, David was a heavyweight. He ain't look like a heavyweight. He was small, right? He was small, little guy, right? Yeah. Walking to the giant like 9 feet tall. David is just there to give water to his brothers. Like, hey, bro, I got to get back to these sheep. I ain't, and he go, man, who the hell is that? Like, that's the giant. That's what we finna fight. Now, brothers didn't want to fight. They there to fight. Yeah. David go out fight him. They laugh. And then David said, "What y'all laughing at me? At least I ain't scared of him. Y'all scared of him." They go, David, man, put on this arm. He go, "No, man, I'm a small dude. I don't need this. I got to be able to move around." They go, "You need this knife?" "Hell no, I got these stones." "What you mean?" Next thing you know, bap. He done killed the giant. And listen, when he walking back, they're like, "David, man, where you going?" "Man, I got to get back to my daddy's sheep, man." Oh, y'all welcome though. All y'all look like 300 Sparta with these eight pack abs. Y'all scared as hell. Do you think FAU scared? No. FAU knows this. Look, man, I said this. The teams is hard to beat are the teams that play the way that got them there. They don't switch it up because they're in the tournament. You got 9. And Coach, you know this. 9 guys playing in the tournament is unheard of. 9? No, you don't have that many. The starters know they're gonna be stuck in win. Listen, I might have 3 come off the bench. Man, they bench is about as deep as it get. If the final is FAU Miami, oh my God. I mean, South Florida gonna be a buzzing if you get the Hurricanes versus FAU, and it could happen.
It
could happen. And like I said, I love you, Seth Greenberg, but I disagree. If you are the top 64 teams, you a heavyweight. That's how we learned about Butler back in the day in VCU. And a lot of teams got St. Peter's and Gardner-Webb. No. Think about the teams that didn't make it. This was Alabama's greatest team we ever seen, got put out. Yeah. So all I'm saying is where the heavyweights at, their names are San Diego State, FAU, UConn, and Miami. That's your 4 heavyweights left because that's the teams they beat. I mean, we didn't think they was that good. Now they watching them. Everybody will be glued to the screen come April 1st, including myself.
Me too.
Well, you know, I don't criticize anyone that's had success, and I feel like they've earned it. Mm-hmm. And all 4 of these teams have earned where they are. The place where they are right now, they earned it. Nobody gave it to them. Nobody, gave many breaks. In fact, they probably had less breaks than anybody else, particularly when you talk about Miami, San Diego State, and FAU. UConn, okay, they have tradition, big tradition there in terms of winning big at that level. But the rest, they earned it. And you got to give it to them and respect it when people earn what they have gotten by how hard they have worked. So I think it's exciting. I don't think it hurts it. You know, I don't know what Seth Greenberg's point was or what the point he was trying to make, but it's college basketball. It's probably the best 4 weeks, in sport, really, outside maybe the Super Bowl. It probably captures more imagination around the country and around the world than any other thing except the Super Bowl. So I like the way it is, and I'm excited to see the next 2 games.
I am too. And, you know, Golden, the big center for Florida Atlantic, he started out, I do know this, at Texas Tech. And he's a tough guy. He's got a, almost 7.5-foot wingspan. Coach, if you had him on your team, he looks like a guy that is getting better every game. But Ben's right. You got 9 guys. And when you went to the Final Four, you talked about your 6 starters, or 5 starters and the first guy off the bench, all grew up within 50 miles of Red Stick?
Mm-hmm.
Baton Rouge?
4 from Baton Rouge, 1 from Denham Springs, 1 from St. Martinville. I mean, they had known each other for a long time. They just got along well. They had a toughness and a character about them that carried us, sustained us. You know, they were talented guys. I mean, you know, a couple of those guys played in the pros for several years and played overseas, but they had that toughness about them where they knew what the other one could do and couldn't do, and they had the positive intangibles that flow through championship teams that you don't really know what it is, but you sense it by watching them and how they deal with one another. And that was a special team with a special group of guys at a special time. And I think timing sometimes is everything. I mean, it's time for these teams, the way they played and how they've been put together, and the right coaches there at the right time, and it happens. So you can't deny it. You can't take it away from them. You got to give it to them because of what they've accomplished.
Yeah. And you know what? The one thing I love is a guy like Jim Larinaga, and he's only 73. I love people. I mean, age is a number. You can make whatever you want to out of it. He's a tough kind of guy, and wherever he goes, the wins come. That's what I love. God bless America. We live in the greatest country in the world because of the people, like both of y'all are saying. Would love to see y'all with your honesty and your candor on SEC Network, you know, because we need more of that. You can't script greatness. You cannot tell people not to say what they feel. I've learned more listening to y'all two. I mean, y'all have played on the biggest stage. You've been to the Final Four. I'm going to put you on the spot. We got less than a minute left. Ben, give me your national champion. We got about 45 seconds. And Coach, you give me yours.
Man, I mean, I know I'm going out on a limb right here. I mean, I love what UConn and the tradition is, but it's something about FAU, man. They got 9 guys, like 9 guys with nothing to lose. Coach, you know this. I got 9 guys that's coached well, that's tough, with nothing to lose. And, hey, man, San Diego or the coast of Florida, I'm going to go with the coast of Florida. I don't deal with earthquakes. So I'm going to go to Boca Raton. Give me them Boca Raton boys from FAU.
All right, Coach.
I tell you what. We'll have to follow this up because I'm gonna go with San Diego State, and we'll have to talk next week, Ben. See what happens here. But, you know, I love UConn. I love Miami. Larinaga, you know, he's won at difficult places. You know, George Mason, Miami. But I'm gonna go with San Diego State because I think they're the best defensive team there, and I'm gonna go with the guy that defends it and rebounds it the best.
I love it. Athletics make men strong. Studies make men wise. Character makes men great. Put them all together, you got the Final Four. Blue bloods, that's a relative term. The best 4 are there. Seth Greenberg, sorry, you got to deal with it. Hey, great show. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. Till then, go out and do something great. We're out of here.
All right.